know if you guys can hear me and see my screen, or we'll begin shortly after. All right. Discord ready. Let's see. Live trade. Martin, Faust, Mark, Fred, Bill, Mark, Ernest. Okay. Thank you for participating, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. All right, then let's start. Welcome to Tradespoon and Yellow Tunnel. My name is Vlad Karpel. I'm CEO and founder of both companies. And today we're going to have a live trading room open to trade stock and options using our technology. For those of you who are new, welcome. If this is your first live event, do me a favor, type in first. Always want to welcome new subscribers. Really appreciate your time. For everybody else who's returning subscribers, welcome back. Stock or options, I encourage you to visit the link on the screen to understand the risk associated with trading stock or options. Risk tolerance level for general education information purposes only. It should not be assumed that the future picks will be profitable. And concentrating more on the process than the outcome. Outcome is very important, but unfortunately, without the process, long term, it's probably not sustainable, right? What does process mean to me? Keep in a journal, right? Document all your trades in a journal, Excel spreadsheet, or write it down, right? For every trade, ask yourself why many times, like few times, why am I getting to this trade? Is it active trader signal? Is it dynamic power trade? Is it earning strategy? So, and put target gain, put stop loss, right? And how much money are you willing to risk, right? That is the number one question. I propose when you're new to trading, or if you have maximum exposure of 2.5%. How do you determine 2.5%? Using positive and negative visualizations, right? So market continues to grind higher, right? We see Bitcoin basically recovering all of the losses. ARK Innovation doing catch up. ARK, small caps are testing. So market continues to grind higher, right? It took a little pause after the NVIDIA earnings, but nonetheless, it's still staying above the trend line, right? So stop loss for short-term trading, I would say 502, right? This is the gap. If it breaks the gap, then it probably is going to close the gap, and that's also the trend line. So you've got to be careful on this level, support 1. So that's your first line of defense. Second line is support number 2, right? Which would be the gap itself. Overhead resistance 510, right? That's resistance number 1, and then 520. If we break through 510, then resistance 520, right? So we can go up 15 points, we can drop 15 points, right? Kind of, that's the idea. In terms of positioning and the stock forecast toolbox, let's look at the model of the rally. Model actually turning positive, basically saying that this is a healthy consolidation and we are heading higher. Bill, welcome. Ernest. Okay, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. Basically, you have a continuation and potentially reaching 520 level, right, in the next 10 days. So that makes sense. I think everybody's bullish, model is bullish. What can derail, right, that momentum? Thursday, we have PCE data, right? Today, we had the GDP first revision. We had PCE for Q4. Doesn't look like any event, right? This is all historical. The PCE is similar kind of because it's the data for the months of January. We know CPI and PPI was hotter than expected. So that means PCE most likely will come in also hotter than expected. For now, you can see, just consolidation, right? There's no new signals. Market is trading in a well-defined range. So how do you determine $250? If you're day trading, I would use this level, which is, let me just double check, stock forecast toolbox, 505. So it sees 505. What's the low for that level? 503. I would use 503. 505, we're already at 505, so that's a little bit, right? So maybe this level, right, 502. And then that means you're risking maybe 1%, maybe less, right? Let's just do 5 points, so it's easier to calculate to 500. So 5 points if you use the gap, right? And that's around 495, right? So we'll call it 10 points. On a $10,000 account, I would propose to risk $250. Right? So average account is $10,000. 2.5% is $250. So that means if you're day trading, you would use 50 shares. $250 on $10,000 account, that's 25 shares. And I propose to always use dollar cost average, and that's what you see inside of active trader, right? So inside of active trader, Nucor, Netflix, and Delta Airline today, right? Nucor, Netflix, Delta Airline, and specific entry and exit points, right? So I can type that as a list. Nucor, Netflix, and Delta Airline. Usually I wait 15 minutes right before getting to the trade. It's 8:27. In terms of positioning, right? So now let's look at the positioning. Probably want to close this. Give me a second. So exit. Yeah, let's exit trade. Happens for a long time. You offer up to people for free. Okay. All right. Hopefully, I mean, you. So okay. So that's a question on Discord. Thank you. All right. Got sidetracked for a second. Positioning. And so market just closed eBay position. Right? So while it's loading yellow tunnel, you can find similar trades or more signals, a little bit more signals on an aggressive power trader. All right, so let's see. Give me 1 second. All right, so dealer volatility, dealer exposure, what is it called? Spiders. So just want to, now I use neural networks to find support and resistance. Now I'm trying to find out where the So if you look at February 28 and February 23 in terms of positioning, right, where people sell in calls, the first strike is 508, right, 508 and 510. So probably between today and Friday, right, probably we're not going to get much further than 508 or 510 level. On the downside, you have a relatively large position of puts at most of the positioning is in 495 strike. So if, you know, up until 495, that's well positioned. So I think if you're thinking about weeks, I would use 495 as your stop level. And on the call side, that's the range, 495 to 520, based on how how the market makers are positioned. All right, let's look at the. So yesterday in Earnings Power Trader or in Lead Circle, both places, I did eBay. Iron Condor on eBay. eBay is up 7%, so I need to try to close the short call. Short call is trading at 16 cents. So let's try to close it for maybe at 6 cents. 50 call. And then I would need to watch where's eBay here? So let's look at 5 minutes. So we have 5 minutes. So first 5 minutes candlestick. So we just wait. So you have a kind of support 46.50, right? And 48 overhead resistance. And I have a 50 strike on short calls. And then let's look at Netflix is down 1%, Delta Airlines down 20 basis points, Nucor down 0.5%. So let's look at where the market is. for unemployment data and CPI and PPI data. I think that will be the next. So 10-year yield is at 430. And that's been overhead resistance. QQQ down 0.5%, SEM is down 1%, Spider slightly down 30 basis points, IWM down 60 basis points, right? So you have a big point that continues to rally. Let's see, is biotech still rally? Let's see. Biotech was up 7% yesterday, so it's flat for today, flat. So for now, we're still staying within the range. $505, $511. So Netflix is down. Nathan and Bob John, hello, Ted, good morning. Okay, let's look at eBay. So Beyond Meat announced earnings up 40%, CPNG up 3%, Lemonade down 23%, eBay up still 7%. Let's see if we can close it. eBay 50 call. Okay, so it's trading at 10 cents. Looks like so 7 cents. Let's see if I can change it to maybe 7 cents. So we have for 7 cents. See if it's getting filled. No, okay. I mean, one way you can kind of defend, like we did yesterday. I don't think it's going anywhere. It's staying in the range. All right, let's see what else is happening. So this we can remove. This we can remove. Yeah, Meet, eBay. So Netflix, let's look at Netflix. Moving on to this level, sitting on support. Let's see Delta Airline. Sorry, trading view is a little slow. Low. Let's see what other stocks we had. An aggressive power trader. So Delta Airline, Netflix, Nucor, Progressive, EMN. Okay. Okay. So Delta Airline has recovered nicely. Let's look at one. See if there's any overhead resistance. It is facing a lot of overhead resistance at this level, so probably not a good idea. At least wait till the breakout, maybe. Let me look at Netflix. And you do have a gap. So if you do, you have a gap at 580, right? 587. So I would say if it drops 587 would be what, 1%. So if it drops 1%, I'm going to be down less than $100, right? Less than $100. So you know, 587, 580, I want to make a decision whether I want to stay in the trade or get out of the trade. So the risk is at this level, 1-2%, you want to be down less than $100. So you do have a gap. Looks like it's holding on to the gap for now. It's been 15 minutes, so let's see. I mean, you want to wait for stabilization first. Because if it doesn't hold this level, then it could break and close the gap. Yeah, so Netflix looks like breaking lower. So just wait. Any questions so far? And CLH continues to go higher. Good. Yeah, if you held on to the stock. If you held on to the stock. I closed the stock. All right, let's review the other positions. Elmar Hydrated Muffin, welcome back. All right. GBTC heading out. Right. Bitcoin is up. GBTC continue to go on higher. You do have kind of this exuberance, right? You know, you can see it in Beyond Meat up 38%. It was up 100% actually last night. So just kind of a lot of, you know, optimism in the, especially in the small cap, high beta stocks, Bitcoin, biotech, you know, stocks that kind of doing a catch-up trade. Stock that already did a catch-up trade, like Nvidia, it is pulling back. Right? The idea is that, you know, without the mega cap stocks, this is just kind of a, for now, catch-up trade. And then the next move will probably be really slow. Okay, looks like eBay, I got filled. That's good. Okay. Yeah, so I'm out of eBay. Close to 0.5%. So that's good on eBay. So I'm out of eBay. So Google is down, continues to deteriorate. I mean, I assume this is the right data. Down 2%. Tesla is flat. Microsoft down 0.5%. Netflix down 1.5%. Meta is flat. Apple is down 80 basis points, 70 basis points. Apple, I think, is actually breaking below 24 lows. So the point is that, yes, biotech can do the catch-up, and Arc Innovation, you know, Beyond Meat can be up 100%. But overall, the market is going to have a hard time continue making highs as long as, you know, Tesla and Apple and Google, you know, trading below 50-day moving average, below 200-day moving average, right? These are the mega cap technology stocks, and I mean, you can review it as a healthy consolidation and it will rebound, or you can kind of, I mean, I think we need a trigger, right? I've been saying for the past couple months and probably now that we need to reconcile the yield and the dollar, right? Dollar continues to be strong, yield continues to be higher. It's probably not going to be this week, right? It's probably somewhere in the March, right? So February is over, so in March, either on CPI, PPI data, but I think that would be the next thing to. Now that I'm out of eBay, let's see if anything has changed on the watch. Oh, let's go over the positions first, since it's 8:55. All right, so eBay, I'm out. Germany, right? This is kind of a longer term trading around the position. It's still in uptrend. It did pull back today, right? Important gap, right? Important gap, so I would watch that. I did trim the position. The uptrend is still intact. I would be a buyer, if it does pull back, especially to the 67 or 68 levels. Going on this NPC. This is a short-term trade from yesterday, right? The idea is it's pulling back to NPC, and I gotta watch the crude oil and see if I want to stay in the trade. I mean, at 170, I'm down. Right, the idea was to be down $100, right? It kind of reversed all these gains. So now I just have to watch and make a decision. Do I want to stay in the trade or do I want to exit, right? Now that I'm down $100 or add to the position. A lot of it depends on crude oil. Crude oil is actually knocking on the doors of 80 level, right? So crude oil continues to go higher, so that's good for energy names. Right, if it actually is able to break out above that level, I think that would be positive for the market. Right, crude oil actually is trying to break through the 80 level, which is long-term overhead resistance. It's been trading sideways. I would say if it's able to stay above 80 level, right, there's really no overhead resistance. It's above 200-day moving average of the oil names. But, one day doesn't set the trend. You need at least to spend a couple days above 80 level, 1 or 2 days above 80 level. Then I think, it could continue rally. So let's hold on to MPC for now. How's XOP doing? Yeah, XOP is also, let me see. So that's MPC. NCLH, I'm out. NVO and QQQ. So this is similar to Japan, right? Kind of more of a longer-term holding, trade around position. It is going through consolidation. We talked about positioning the stock, right? NVO. Big open interest around 125. So you need some kind of a positive catalyst to jump from 125 to the next level, which would be 130, right? Because these are the levels where people are buying pullback, right? I would buy in pullback, and 24, 125, that's overbought. Maybe at 118, 116, you want to add. QQQ, I mean, there's no new signal, right? For the past 4 weeks, we're kind of just not going anywhere. It's sitting at this important support level, right? I would watch the support level, right? If it does break down, right, then the next, you reach 420. In terms of positioning, is there any positions before 420? Baba, I'll answer your question. Give me 1 second. Let me just look at this. So QQQ, not March 1, March 15th. Sorry, March 15th. So the next strike was the high open interest is at 425, right? So you really don't have much defense up until 425 level, 425. So yeah, so it makes sense. It's the gap, right? So right now people are not very well positioned up until 425. So if it drops to the 50-day moving average and try to close the gap, I mean, I think that's a buy signal. That's where I would maybe consider buying. But for now, I would watch this level because this trend line has been broken once, right? So it was broken once. Nvidia saved the day, but now you could, if it breaks through the session low after Nvidia earnings, it could potentially, the next level would be positioning 425, right? So you could have a big, 2-3% drop pretty quickly. That's, we need that drop for that to work. But April 430, 420, right? I rolled the March to April. So I think it makes sense to have at least one positions to hedge, especially when Apple is below 200-day moving average and, Tesla and Google underperforming, market is not going to get too far without these stocks. If you're not comfortable doing QQQ put spread, maybe and Verizon, kind of similar trades they have to do with dollar and interest rates. So silver, Verizon, NTLT will move once we have new CPI, PPI data. I mean, it could revisit the lows or it can try to regain 200-day moving average. So for now, I think I'm just going to wait for the next CPI, PPI data. I mean, there's two things going to happen. Market will consolidate and then will rally because of stock. Which day, what is going to be? Usually I try not to guess, the outcome of macroeconomic data. So TLT, silver, Verizon, they're kind of in the same boat. Still stocks. Verizon's holding on to the 50-day moving average. And it did break the uptrend. So we'll just have to wait and see. All right, Bob's question. Wasn't the position on eBay mostly bearish yesterday afternoon? Let me look at the screenshot. I don't think it was bearish. I think it was put skew, right? So let's review the eBay. February 9. So I'm watching positioning of eBay, right? So you have volatility, right? Volatility imbalance, right? So it's a put skew, right? So if it's greater than 0.5, it's considered to be a put skew. And you can see positive then, and not a huge amount, right? You don't see 3,000, 5,000, 350. But the strike is 47.48, right? That's the largest open interest is between 47, 40. It's almost like magic. eBay is trading between 40, or at least was trading between 47, 48, right? So open interest, right? It's positioning, right? Positioning is very important, whether it's options positioning or money market positioning or futures, QQQ futures data, puts and calls. Positioning is important because it basically shows you where the stock is gravitating toward. Right? If there is a positive surprise, right? It doesn't say it's bearish or bullish, right? This is just probability of distribution of outcomes. So if they have positive earnings, they beat on the bottom line, top line, they're doing $2 billion repurchase, because that's where people are positioned, right? That's where market makers are positioned. If they have negative surprise, it will probably be at 42, right? It would be trading right now between 41 and 42. Right, and these examples are, we kind of, I actually decision and look at I didn't do the. Okay. So this is important data, right? This is important data because it tells you how people position. Is there irrational exuberance, right? When you have call skew, then everybody's buying calls, nobody's, and selling puts. In this case, everybody was selling calls and buying puts. So they were selling 47, 48 calls, and that's where the positioning is. I mean, it doesn't mean it has to stay there. It could jump to 50 level. That's the next high strike. But the earnings were not good enough to, at least as of right now, to push it to that level. Right? So. Till we get to sell in May. Bob, yes. So in terms of seasonality, you're right. We're still in February, so it's a little bit earlier. But usually, yes. March and end of February usually kind of where you could have a pullback maybe first 2 weeks of March. But as we approach in the next earnings season, towards the second half of March, that's when the rally is going to continue. I think that's exactly what's going to happen, right? We're going to consolidate for the first 2 weeks of March. Then we're going to have a CPI and PPI data, and that will determine whether we're going to follow seasonality, and it's just going to be higher highs, higher lows, or maybe a little bit bigger pullback, right? That kind of everybody been waiting, but it just never happened in January, February. Earnings place today, Ross, HPQ. Ross doesn't have a lot of volume, but HPQ does. So yeah, I would look at the HPQ. Thank you, Bob. All right, did I answer all the questions on Discord? Hydrated Muffin, L. Mark, welcome back. All right. Discord, guys, thank you. See you guys tomorrow morning. Any other questions? All right, let's see. How's the market doing? Let's see how's Netflix. Yeah, looks like Netflix is giving up all of the gains. Or most of the gains from yesterday. Yeah. So Netflix is closing the gap. Netflix is closing the gap. Let's see. Active trader. $588,601. So 588 is a support, which is we got closed, right? So yeah, at the gap, if it does stabilize, right? If it stops, continue going lower and starts reversing, that would be maybe small position you can put on around 588 level. So it's still a strong uptrend. 588 sounds like a good entry point. And we're basically almost there. Delta Airline, I think it needs to pull back before, because there is overhead resistance at 4220. How's new core? You could also kind of open other questions. Ernest, Vana exposure. Yeah, I think Vana exposure, looking at the positioning, right? Not so much as even Vana, but which strike has a lot of open interest. Those are your magnets, right? Look at the traditional technical analysis, right? If all three align, then then probability that these support resistance levels will work, is high, or at least you can use them as target gain and stop losses, right? Because it's a huge information, like to know that eBay is going to gravitate between 47 and 48, right? If you see the escaping start rallying, then next level is 50. So it's also important to know, right, where the high open interest strikes are. All right, it's Wednesday. SPX, Ernest. Let's do SPY. They're one-to-one. I mean, SPY. For now, not a lot of momentum to the. A lot of it is being pushed by QQQ. So for now, Spider, same thing, right? It's the gap, the NVIDIA gap, right? So as long as we are staying above 504, right? It's clean breakout. It's been there 5 days. It's consolidating. Short-term aggressive traders, potentially buy it for 503. Right? If this gap doesn't hold, if this session open session doesn't hold, right, and the next level would be this gap, and probably QQQ has been weaker, so I would pay attention to QQQ, right, because it's sitting right at this line, right. This is this February 16th session high. It was the support, and now we're trading right at this level. So if, I don't know, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow PC data, right? So it might not be a surprise, but it could be kind of an excuse for QQQ to pull back, right? So tomorrow after PC, maybe it comes in harder than everybody anticipated, right? And then, if this level doesn't hold, you're quickly gonna be at, potentially at 425, because there's really no put buying up until 425. So no people are not hedged till 420. If PC data harder than expected, most people anticipated, then 425 will probably hold. But the gap, I would basically watch this gap. 434, we kind of tested it, bounced back, so we'll see if we're going to test it again. Thank you, Ernest. Got it. IWM recovery or temporary rally? I think the main reason for, IWM has a lot of regional banks, but it also has a lot, small caps, right? Small regional banks, and then biotech. Biotech is breaking out, right? You kind of look at the weekly chart, you do see kind of a clean breakout above 95 level, right? And that's what's pushing the Russell 2000. So I think breakout, but continues to rally, that will push, or at least give support to IWM. Regional banks there's regional banks, there is energy names. Energy kind of not going anywhere. Regional banks also underperforming, right? KRE is actually sitting at year-to-date low, right? So without regional banks, and without large, I don't know how much more momentum names start. If the crude oil breaks above 80, then I think we can continue going higher. But for now, it's testing the 2024 high, right? It's testing 2024 high, it's testing 2023 high, it's testing 2022 high, right? It's multi-year overhead resistance. So you probably need this consult. I think if interest rates, if inflation data comes in better than expected for the months of February and March, Russell 2000 will break out and it will follow, it will outperform, it will do a catch-up trade, kind of like Bitcoin, kind of like biotech. But it's very sensitive to inflation and interest rates. If it's again positive surprise, like it will, retest the lows. So a lot of hinges. So in March, well, Powell testifies, right? Every time Powell speaks, that's an event. So I would pay attention to this Wednesday when Powell speaks, right? He might say, listen, you guys are ahead of yourself. Nobody's lowering interest rates the first half of the year. I think that would be a negative surprise, right? If he says something like that. If he doesn't say anything of substance or of something that people don't expect, then unemployment data. It's one of those things, if unemployment, again, we're creating 500,000 jobs and unemployment is going lower, people might perceive that the inflation is not going to drop. So if it comes in with an expectation, then, maybe. But usually unemployment data has effect on the interest rates. Thank you, Mark. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a great day. Scott will do the closing bell today, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Thank you very much.